What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Buzz. Today we dive into one of the biggest stories shaking the MMA community, Sean Strickland's official suspension, his reaction to it, and what this means for his career moving forward. Sean Strickland has always been one of the most outspoken and controversial figures in the UFC. Known for his fiery personality and no-filter approach to both interviews and social media, Strickland has never been one to shy away from conflict. But this time, that intensity has landed him in serious trouble outside the octagon. Back in June, Strickland got into an altercation with a fighter who had previously beaten one of his teammates at a Tough Enough event. The incident, while not inside the UFC cage, was enough to catch the attention of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. After weeks of review, the commission handed down an official ruling. Strickland has been suspended for 6 months, fined $5,000, and is required to cover additional legal fees related to the case. The suspension is significant because it sidelines a former UFC middleweight champion during a critical point in his career. Strickland had recently been working his way back into contention and was vocal about his desire to face the top names in the division. Now, with this punishment, his momentum takes a serious hit. However, there is a path forward. According to reports, the commission is offering Strickland a reduced penalty if he complies with certain conditions. Specifically, if he completes a commission-approved anger management course, his 6-month suspension could be cut down to 4.5 months. While that might not seem like a massive difference, in the fast-moving world of the UFC, where fight bookings and title pictures can change overnight, those 6 weeks could be critical. Strickland, true to form, didn't take the news quietly. He responded on Instagram with his own unique sense of humor and defiance, posting an AI-generated picture of himself teaching a group of people how to be even angrier. He used the opportunity not only to poke fun at the situation, but also to take a shot at Khamzat Chimaev. In his caption, Strickland made it clear that he plans to comply with the anger management requirement and do whatever it takes to shorten his suspension. He wrote that he's ready to put this situation to rest, get back in the octagon, and reminded everyone of his belief that the middleweight division needs a real fighter at the top. In his words, "Can't have a soft fighter as a champion. Sadly, I think I'm the only one who can change that. Appreciate the commission for getting this done. Anger management, here I come." It's vintage Strickland, brash, unapologetic, and always keeping the fight game entertaining, even when the circumstances are less than ideal. Assuming he follows through with the commission's requirements, Strickland could be eligible to fight again in just over 4 months. That timeline would put him back in action around late fall or early winter, just in time for the UFC to capitalize on a big fight card. The suspension raises several important questions for fans and analysts alike. Who will Strickland face upon his return? Will the UFC welcome him back with a top-ranked opponent, or will he need to rebuild momentum before getting another crack at the elite of the division? And most importantly, how will this incident affect his standing with the promotion, which has often had a complicated relationship with fighters who generate controversy outside the cage? What's certain is that Strickland remains one of the most polarizing yet must-watch figures in the sport. Love him or hate him, he brings an intensity that few fighters can match, both in his fighting style and his personality. His upcoming journey through anger management classes, combined with his determination to shorten his suspension, is sure to keep him in the headlines even while he's away from the octagon. For now, fans will be watching closely to see how this plays out and waiting to hear who the UFC pairs him with once he's cleared to fight again. Moving to another news, Ilia Topuria has taken the MMA world by storm, remaining undefeated in his professional career and cementing his status as one of the sport's most dangerous rising stars. But recently, UFC commentator Jon Anik made waves with a bold prediction. He believes Islam Makhachev not only has the tools to hand Topuria his first loss, but that he could do it in 2 different weight divisions. The potential matchup between these 2 elite fighters has intrigued fans for months. Earlier this year, speculation grew when Topuria vacated his featherweight title in pursuit of bigger challenges at lightweight. However, in a surprising turn, Makhachev vacated his lightweight belt and moved up to welterweight, where he is expected to challenge newly crowned champion Jack Della Maddalena later this year. For now, that means a clash between Topuria and Makhachev isn't on the immediate horizon, but the idea refuses to fade. During a recent Q&A session, Anik was asked about the possibility of Makhachev facing Topuria. His response was emphatic. "You'll see Islam back at 145 pounds. That's the fight. That's a dream matchup. As for how it plays out, if I had to send anyone in there, maybe across 2 divisions, to beat Ilia Topuria right now, I would send Islam. I think he's got a great shot." Anik's reasoning is clear. While Topuria is dynamic, powerful, and undefeated, he has yet to face someone with the elite, suffocating wrestling and grappling arsenal that Makhachev brings to the table. The Dagestani fighter has made a career out of neutralizing dangerous strikers by dragging them into his world on the mat. If Topuria and Makhachev were to meet, whether at lightweight or welterweight, the stylistic clash would be fascinating. Of course, Makhachev has his immediate focus set on Jack Della Maddalena, the explosive Australian striker who recently captured the welterweight title by defeating Belal Muhammad. That fight poses its own set of challenges. Muhammad, who lost the belt to Della Maddalena, was asked to give his thoughts on how Makhachev might fare. His analysis was straightforward. It just comes down to if Islam can get it to the ground. If he gets it there, Islam will be levels above him on the ground. It could end with a submission, but the challenge is getting it there first. That sentiment has been echoed throughout the MMA community. Della Maddalena is known for his crisp striking and knockout power, but if Makhachev is able to implement his wrestling-heavy game plan, the tide of the fight could shift quickly. The matchup is being viewed as a classic striker versus grappler showdown, with high stakes attached. Interestingly, Belal Muhammad was also asked if he would be willing to face Makhachev in the future if his former training partner wins the welterweight title. His response was less definitive. While he didn't outright say yes, he didn't rule it out either, hinting that circumstances might force the matchup. This is a notable shift from earlier this year, when Muhammad was still champion and publicly stated he would never fight Makhachev due to their close training relationship. At the time, he even suggested moving up to middleweight rather than face his teammate at 170, but as Muhammad himself admitted, circumstances change. With the welterweight belt now in Makhachev's sights, a potential clash between former teammates can't be ruled out. If Makhachev defeats Della Maddalena and Muhammad strings together another big win, the UFC could have an intriguing storyline to promote. For now, fans are left with tantalizing possibilities. Could Islam Makhachev be the man to hand Ilia Topuria his first professional loss regardless of weight class? And beyond that, could his rise at welterweight create unavoidable tension with his friend and training partner Belal Muhammad? One thing is certain, Islam Makhachev remains one of the most dangerous and versatile fighters in the sport today. Whether at lightweight or welterweight, his mix of world-class grappling and improving striking ensures he will remain at the center of some of the UFC's biggest storylines in the years ahead. Moving to another news, Anthony "Fluffy" Hernandez has been on an incredible run inside the UFC octagon, with 8 consecutive victories to his name. The middleweight contender is now closer than ever to breaking into the title picture. Speaking in a recent interview with MMA Junkie, Hernandez expressed confidence that his upcoming clash against Reinier De Ridder on October 18th in Vancouver could be the fight that finally earns him a UFC title opportunity. Hernandez revealed that after his dominant win over Roman Dolidze earlier this year, he had hoped that performance would be enough to put him next in line for a title shot. However, when the UFC came back with an offer to face De Ridder, a highly respected former ONE Championship title holder making his UFC debut, Hernandez knew immediately that it was a matchup he couldn't turn down. "I was literally getting a massage when my manager called," Hernandez recalled. "They told me this is one of those offers you don't want to pass up. I didn't even hesitate. I said, okay, run it. Send me the contract. Let's make it happen. That's always been my mindset. If this is the fight I have to take to get to the top, then so be it." Hernandez's relentless work ethic and willingness to fight anyone at any time have become defining traits of his career. He explained that while fighters often campaign for favorable matchups or turn down certain opponents, that has never been his style. "At the end of the day, I'm not the matchmaker. I'm not Dana White. I don't make the calls," Hernandez said. "When they say be here, I show up. If I'm healthy, I'll fight anybody. I'll never say no to anyone in this division. That's just how I'm built. If I have to knock down every single guy until I finally get that title shot, then that's what I'll do." Despite his humility about not being in control of matchmaking, Hernandez is clear about his ambitions. He knows that defeating Reinier De Ridder, who comes into the UFC with a reputation as one of the best grapplers in the world, would be a career-defining moment. "There are levels to wrestling and grappling, no doubt," Hernandez admitted, "but I believe I'm right there at the top with the best guys in the world. Whether it's Khamzat Chimaev, Islam Makhachev, or anyone else, I'm confident in my skill set. People might doubt me, but that's fine. The more they doubt, the better it feels when I prove them wrong." Hernandez has been steadily building momentum not just with wins but with his style of fighting. His relentless pace, constant pressure, and finishing ability have made him one of the toughest tests in the middleweight division. He understands that to break through into championship contention, he needs to make statements, not just secure decisions. "As fighters, we can't always control the politics of matchmaking," Hernandez said, "but what I can control is how I perform when I step into the octagon. I want to show the UFC, the fans, and the division that I'm undeniable. Beating a guy like Reinier De Ridder, a world-class champion, is exactly the kind of win that puts me right where I want to be." For Hernandez, the upcoming fight in Vancouver isn't just about extending his winning streak, it's about seizing an opportunity to prove he belongs among the elite. Confident, hungry, and driven, Fluffy Hernandez believes October 18th could mark the final step before he finally gets his long-awaited shot at UFC gold. Reinier De Ridder, the reigning middleweight champion, has made it clear that he does not believe Caio Borralho deserves a title shot. In a recent appearance on the Pound for Pound show alongside former champions Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo, De Ridder firmly voiced his stance, citing Borralho's inactivity and lack of accomplishments in 2025 as reasons why the Brazilian contender should not be in line for a championship opportunity. Speaking candidly, De Ridder explained, "I don't think Caio is there yet. He hasn't fought at all this year, and that matters. His last notable victory was against Jared Cannonier, which was solid, but even that win doesn't hold the same weight anymore since Michael Venom Page also beat Cannonier recently. Meanwhile, I've fought and defeated 5 opponents this year alone. Caio hasn't fought anybody in 2025, so I don't see how he could possibly be next in line." De Ridder also took a moment to highlight other fighters he feels are more deserving of consideration. Among them, he mentioned Anthony "Fluffy" Hernandez, praising his skills and recent performances. "Fluffy is very good and he's proven himself consistently. He's close to the top and is someone I could see being in that title picture sooner rather than later," De Ridder added. However, Borralho did not take these comments lightly. In an interview with Submission Radio, he fired back at De Ridder, criticizing both his fighting style and his perceived weaknesses. Borralho boldly predicted that De Ridder would lose his upcoming fight against Anthony Hernandez. "Honestly, RDR is overrated. His grappling is good, but it's about the same level as Roman Dolidze's. On the feet, I think RDR is actually worse than Dolidze. Anthony Hernandez is going to expose him. It's going to look almost identical to Hernandez's fight with Dolidze, and I believe Hernandez is going to dominate and get the win," Borralho claimed. The exchange between the two fighters has fueled an intense debate among MMA fans. Supporters of De Ridder argue that his record speaks for itself, as he has been one of the most active champions, consistently defending his title against top contenders. His dominance on the ground, coupled with his ability to neutralize dangerous strikers, has kept him at the top of the middleweight division. On the other hand, Borralho's supporters argue that despite his inactivity in 2025, he has shown flashes of elite potential in the past. They believe that De Ridder's style is exploitable and that Hernandez, or even Borralho himself, could be the fighter to dethrone the champion. This war of words adds yet another layer of intrigue to the middleweight division. De Ridder is focused on maintaining his status as the champion and cementing his legacy with continued activity and victories, while Borralho is determined to prove that he belongs in the title conversation despite recent setbacks. Whether or not Borralho earns his shot remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: tensions in the division are heating up, and the road to the championship has never been more competitive. Moving to another news, Jon Jones has never been one to shy away from responding to his critics, and this week was no different after he saw recent remarks made by his longtime rival Daniel Cormier. Jones took to social media platform X to share his thoughts, and as expected, his response was sharp, unapologetic, and layered with both humor and defiance. The situation began when Cormier appeared on a podcast alongside Shannon Sharpe, where he discussed Jones while recounting a story. Jones, upon hearing what was said, felt that Cormier once again painted him as a side character rather than recognizing the full scope of his accomplishments. Posting late last night, Jones wrote, "When DC tells a story, somehow I'm always the co-star. Thanks Shannon Sharpe for the invite, even if I was only there in spirit. Airbnb." That initial reaction sparked a wave of fan responses. One user suggested that Cormier was actually giving Jones some credit, but claimed that Jones's judgment was clouded by his long-standing animosity toward DC. Jones, however, was quick to correct that narrative. He responded by pointing out what he felt was a dismissal of his lifetime of achievements. "To have a man out there lobbying on one of the biggest podcasts trying to convince the world that my work ethic was powered by something other than myself. You clearly didn't even watch the interview. High school state champ, JUCO national champ, youngest UFC champion, greatest in MMA history, a lifetime of wins, losses, and sacrifice. And this guy wants to write it all off. Honestly, it's insulting. But I can't help but laugh knowing it was God-given abilities that made him feel so inferior." Jones's comments highlight a central theme in his rivalry with Cormier: the ongoing debate about whether his dominance inside the octagon has been a product of natural ability, tireless work ethic, or a combination of both. By emphasizing his accolades from his early wrestling success to his unprecedented rise in the UFC, Jones reminded fans that his career was built on more than just physical gifts. The online exchange didn't stop there. Another fan chimed in, suggesting that losing is better than running away in the MMA world, a thinly veiled criticism aimed at Jones. Jones, never one to let such comments slide, fired back with a mix of sarcasm and disdain. "Lol. The delusion some of you fans have is hysterical. You're sitting there telling me how the MMA world works. Really think about that for a second." This exchange once again underscores why Jones remains such a polarizing figure in combat sports. To his supporters, he is the undisputed greatest of all time, a man whose resume speaks for itself. To his critics, he is controversial, brash, and unwilling to let any slight, real or perceived, go unanswered. As the back and forth with Cormier continues to simmer, it's clear that their rivalry, though no longer active in the octagon, still burns just as fiercely in the public eye. Jones's legacy is already cemented in the record books, but his insistence on defending that legacy shows that for him, respect matters just as much as victory.